Israeli warplanes pounded the northern Gaza Strip for a second day yesterday in a fierce assault that has shattered weeks of comparative calm. And Israel said it was moving forward with plans for an all-out assault on Rafah in the south. After an abrupt Israeli pullback at the start of this month, Palestinians at both ends of the Gaza Strip were again fleeing for their lives from bombing they described as some of the war's worst. Now, let's get an update. Spokesperson for the Palestine Red Crescent Society, Nebal Farsakh, joins us now. Nebal, thank you so much for your time. So we are hearing, of course, that the bombings over the past 2 days have been the war's worst, according to Palestinians on the ground. I mean, just given the destruction since Israel's retaliation of Hamas's October attack, one can't imagine how this latest round of bombings is impacting the already destroyed Gaza Strip. Just paint us a picture of what is happening on the ground.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. The war on Gaza have been going for almost 7 continued months. The bombardment has resulted in a great destruction of civilians' infrastructure. At least more than 70% of the infrastructure have been destroyed. More than 70% of civilians' homes have been destroyed, in addition to the destruction of schools, mosques, universities. Everything in Gaza has been destroyed. Everywhere there's a rubble, and there's no aspects of life at Gaza. Civilians have been forced to flee from a place to another multiple times. More than 85% of Gaza population are now internally displaced, and the situation is getting worse and worse since bombardments is still to be continued, and people are still suffering because of the lack of access to food and drinkable water, as well as medications. Also, the healthcare system is in a catastrophic situation. As you also highlighted, during the past few days, Israel intensified its bombardments for the area of Rafah. Last night, during shelling and bombardments for 3 homes, this has resulted to the killing of 8 Palestinians, including 2 children. And now almost 1.5 million Palestinians in Gaza are terrified. Those 1.5 million are in Rafah specifically. They are terrified, trapped, waiting and not knowing what to do, since there is no safe place to go. And this is ahead of a ground invasion for Rafah that will affect 1.5 million Palestinians who are already overcrowded everywhere. In Rafah, you can see people in the streets, on the grounds of hospitals, in makeshift tents, and everywhere. All of them are suffering, lacking access to food, drinkable water, as well as sanitation and everything. They are literally overcrowding. And the question is, if the ground invasion happened, those people, where they will go, what option they have, because literally there is no safe places in Gaza and they don't know where even to go.
I would imagine, I mean, what we are talking about here is essentially intensified bombing in the north and intensified bombing in the south. So as you rightfully say, people don't know where to go. Let's talk now about the healthcare infrastructure. You mentioned a little bit about it. We've seen, of course, over the past few days, how the healthcare system in Gaza has been decimated. Talk to us about the situation there on the ground, particularly for medical teams.
The situation is devastating. We're talking about most of the hospitals were taken out of service. Now only 10 hospitals out of 36 are partially operating. That means they are providing minimum healthcare services. Those hospitals are overwhelmed with the number of wounded people at these hospitals. Unfortunately, many patients and wounded, they went without even medical services. Hospitals suffer from the shortages of medications, medical supply, as well as even fuel, which is urgently needed for the power generators. On top of that, we are seeing more hospitals being targeted, including the PRCS hospitals. Both of our hospitals, Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza City and Al-Amal Hospital in Khan Yunis, were taken out of service because of the Israeli attacks. Recently, we managed only to reopen the emergency room at Al-Amal hospital, but the destruction of our hospital in terms of the medical supplies, it's unimaginable. And this means thousands of people are literally denied access to healthcare. Now, with the threat of a ground invasion in Rafah, that means thousands of people will be killing, in addition to thousands others who will be injured. And such ground invasion will absolutely means also hindering the delivery of a humanitarian aid. We are literally in a dire situation and can't imagine how the situation will be more catastrophic if this ground invasion to happen. It is so devastated to see Israel confirming this ground invasion to happen, despite all calls from the international community and different countries regarding how dangerous such ground invasion will be on the lives of civilians who are already suffering for almost 7 months. 7 of continuous months with bombardments happened everywhere and the great destruction to all aspects of life, including homes and infrastructure. People now don't know where to go since everything almost has been destroyed. On top of that, the risk of famine is still, and people in Rafah are also suffering from infectious diseases, which start to spread among those people who are internally displaced because they are overcrowded and lacking access to water, sanitation, and even can't even access healthcare to be treated from those infectious diseases, which also means thousands of people will be losing their lives soon from the infectious diseases and malnutrition. If this war is not going to be end, and we continue to call also on sustained unembedded humanitarian aid access to all areas of Gaza, so we can help the entire population who are now absolutely all of them suffer from catastrophic levels of hunger and totally rely on humanitarian assistance.